Hey guys, it's Lou. I'm back today to do a video contest entry for Backwoods Metal, Jered's station, Jered's channel. He's doing a contest for his 330 subs, and Jered's got a great station. He shows a lot of hard rock and metal. Some of it I'm into, but he's just an entertaining guy to watch. Very sort of laid back style, and I really enjoy the way he is in his videos and his chill attitude. His contest, and congratulations Jered for the 330 subs. His contest is called Sloppy Seconds, and I guess he wants us to show at least 5 albums where an artist's second album is not as good as the first album, and it doesn't mean that the second album has to suck or anything like that, but just that the first album was clearly a much better album. Okay, so my first one to show is, and I've got this as part of a twofer album here, and the one I'm going to focus on is this first album right here by The Who, My Generation. Excellent first album. It was back in The Who when they were in their early mod period. So that album, of course, that album has the title track and The Kids Are Alright as the most well-known songs. And their second album, this one here, I'm just going to take this out because of the glare, is called A Quick One. I think in some parts of the world it was also called Happy Jack because of the song that's on there. Not that this is a bad album, but certainly not, in my opinion, not as good as The Who's first album. It does contain one of my favorite Who songs, which is the title track, A Quick One, sort of a mini opera, if you will. But I think song for song, the debut album, My Generation, is quite a bit better than this one. Next, we have a band from the US, Interpol, and their first album, Turn on the Bright Lights. This album was quite popular when it came out back in the 90s. I think it was in the 90s. Yeah. Songs like Obstacle One. What else was on here? PDA. NYC, Stella Was a Diver, and She Was Always Down. The New, a bunch of great songs, and they were definitely compared to Joy Division when they came out, but even though there was that knock against the band, these songs are excellent on here, and this is definitely their best album. So Turn on the Bright Lights. And then their second album, which by no means is a dud, is probably their second best album, but again, not quite as good as the first album. And this is their second album, Antics. Next, we have a band back from the mid to late 80s, Hothouse Flowers, and their album People. The big song off of this was, they had a couple. They had I'm Sorry, what was it called? Don't Go, was the big single off of here. This was a great album beginning to end. And their second album, which was also a good album but not quite as good as the first, is this album here, Home. Hothouse Flowers. Another 80s band. I've shown this album before, absolutely love it. Big Country, The Crossing, Fields of Fire, In a Big Country, Harvest Home, The Storm. So many great songs on this album. One that I would consider a perfect album. The very famous bagpipe guitar sound. And they followed that up with an EP called Wonderland, which was a pretty decent EP, especially the title track was a great song. But their second proper album was Steel Town. This did have some good songs on it. Where the Rose Is Sown, Just a Shadow, to name a couple, East of Eden. Very, very good album. I was a big country fan. Very good album, but again, doesn't compare to that first album, The Crossing. An album that I've shown before, one of probably my top 5 albums of all time. We have The Beat, and their first album, I Just Can't Stop It. Of course, in North America, they were known as the English Beat because of another band that was called The Beat. This is their first album. This is just an utter classic. Mirror in the Bathroom, Ranking Full Stop, Twist and Crawl. It's just an unbelievable album. I Just Can't Stop It. And their second album, Whoppin'. And really, what did happen from that first album to the second album? This is an okay album. Doors of Your Heart is probably the biggest song off of here, but it pales in comparison to that first album. They did make quite a bit of a comeback on their third album, which is called Special Beat Service, which was the album with Save It for Later, but certainly a big drop from the first album to this album. And something was definitely in the drinking water over there in the UK, especially with the ska bands, because another band that had a great first album and not quite as good second album, Madness, I was about to say the Specials, Madness with One Step Beyond. This is again another utter classic, just beginning to end. Beautiful album, One Step Beyond, Nightboat to Cairo, My Girl, such a great album. And then the second album, which was a decent album, but again, not as good as the first album, is Absolutely. And the band that I was about to mention before, again, sort of the trifecta there on the British ska scene. We have the Specials' first album. Again, classic. I know I'm overusing that word, but these 3 ska albums are just classics in my opinion. Message to You, Rudy, Nightclub, the list goes on in terms of this album. And then the second album, which again is an okay album, but not great, just a recent pickup of mine, we have More Specials. Okay? So there you go. Sloppy Seconds, bands whose second album was not as good as the first. And again, congratulations, Jered, on your 330 subs, and see you guys next time.